It really took a good minute to get you on here, man. And
brother, I wish I could say life was different.
hey, I understand, man.
My life is complex and complicated. 7 kids, businesses moving everywhere, and
hey, the first time it was my fault. Hey, failures, they when you have a failure and you don't learn from it, that's when things are going wrong. If you learn from it,
yeah,
that's how you get better in life. And
absolutely,
being an NFL athlete,
I was never offended. I'm never offended by persistence by any means. And actually, it's very admirable. And of course, the patient, persistent. I think they actually can exist. Coexist. But you have to be. I love watching people like yourself hustle and pave a way for themselves, and it'll continue to pay dividends. So I'm happy to make it work.
Hey, blessings, my guy. So, David, we welcome you on Sports Talk 1996 on YouTube with me, Zach Barnett, and get it all rolling with how did you get involved with football as a kid?
As a kid, man, it was actually just by nature of moving into a tremendous community. I'm from, East Orange as a young kid, moved to Montclair, New Jersey. Montclair, New Jersey was a ripe sports town, and there was history there from legacy players, first black captain in Notre Dame, Aubrey Lewis, and as well as historic Montclair championship teams. And that was it. Football was in the air, and it was more of a social thing, but it changed my life.
Definitely. Hey, it all led to the helmet.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah. That was definitely the genesis of it. I remember after making the helmet catch, they in our local paper, they put one of my more iconic catches of my high school career next to the helmet catch. Didn't quite measure up to the helmet catch, but it was nice.
Hey, growing up in that area, who were some of your sports role models that you looked up to that kind of changed your way of thinking on sports?
That's actually a really good question. I think just as at my youngest years, watching a little bit of sports from a distance, it was Jerry Rice. But when I got on, as I emerged I was definitely not like a football historian. And when I moved into Montclair, it was actually some of these local players. Like when I started hearing about players who were getting Division I scholarships, Quentin Spotwood was a couple years older than me, who went to Syracuse as an All-American punt returner. It was seeing young men pursue that kind of dream that was a bit of a dream. And it was the local heroes that I actually probably ascribed more, greatness toward. It was hearing about Al Harrington, it was hearing about St. Anthony's Bob Hurley in New Jersey and what these guys were doing. It was the local heroes that actually gave me more motivation than those, the Deion Sanders, who was a big, iconic figure in the 90s. So it was definitely some big heroes, but it was really more the local guys.
Definitely, man. So scrolling it forward for you personally, David, coming into the NFL as a 6th-round pick, what was your first thoughts when the Giants called your name, man? The Giants called you up on the phone.
It was amazing. It was number one, when you're in that position, it's kind of weird when you may hear some players hear from their age and that you can get drafted as high as in the 4th round, or you might not go at all. And that's actually a real thing. It's weird to hear something that has that much variation. And, I wasn't expected to be drafted. I wasn't really on anybody's board going into, I wasn't in the conversation as a junior. So I just kind of had fair expectations. So to hear the phone ring toward the end of the second day, it was only 2 days back then, and it was the Giants. It was wild. The fun little quick story was that as I'm waiting for the Giants to finish up this pick, the Detroit Lions actually called me on the other line. So all of a sudden things got hot right toward the end of the draft. But they had the first pick in the 7th round. So it was great to be wanted, and it was even crazier to think about I could drive 20 minutes and be at work.
Definitely, man. So we were mentioning before about life itself. Life has a funny way of playing out like a roller coaster. When you seen Eli Manning in the Super Bowl, get out of the tackle and scramble and just chuck the football up in the air. What was that moment like for you? And did time slow down in that moment?
I think the moment is so instinctive, right? You're playing a game of football, you come out, you got to play, you got to plan, and then, the goal is to execute it, and then the play actually happens, you have to respond. So is life, right? And ultimately, there is a plan. The cool thing even about football, you have a scramble drill, and based on where you are on the field, you have a responsibility to try to put yourself in position to give the quarterback a chance to make the play. Very familiar with that with mobile quarterbacks back in Syracuse, and so that was kind of instinctive. And Eli obviously played way above the X's and O's. And it actually really was Chariots of Fire kind of feeling. It was that slow down, Duracell moment from back in the day, old Duracell commercials. and that was it. It was special. But it was in my mind, you're kind of going through this repetitiously throughout your career. And everything is very instinctive. It was just, I got it. I'm not letting it go. And, and no one's knowing that I just made history at the moment because we hadn't won the game. It doesn't really matter yet.
Definitely. And you're tied up with probably arguably he's a GOAT himself and Rodney Harrison. Did he whisper in your ear, you better drop that football?
Nah, no whispers at the time. He was a little tight. The fun thing about it was as soon as I come down, you can see Steve Smith. Big shout out to Steve Smith. He comes in there, and he was jawing at Rodney like crazy. Like, get off, you chump. Get off, you sucker. So those are definitely good times. And like I said, just to be in position for your team to make the play. Of course, you have confidence as a player. You arrive at that level. And, just to actually – it's kind of everything that you expect in that moment.
Definitely. So, David, life after football for you personally, how have you applied the trials and tribulations of the game to your personal life?
Yeah, thank God I was built to overcome. My career has different stops and depots. I come into the league and I'm young and kind of foolish. I get arrested after my rookie year on marijuana possession. And that was kind of like a transformative overcoming moment in my life. Never drank again, never smoked again, married 3 months later after a radical transformation. And then I kind of have a stabilizing force in my life. And then, you kind of get to the helmet catch. And I think it was a moment of affirmation. It was a moment of celebration. And then I kind of hit the next train of adversity with injuries and toward the end of my career. So for me, I've constantly embraced the mindset of being an overcomer, and moving into life after football was really just about finding what you're good at. And I've kind of understood that leadership and service is really where my heart lies. And I was doing that in the front office up until 2020 with the New York Giants. And now more as an entrepreneur and a business owner, and moving more toward the media, launched Catch the Moment podcast, and we own a Clean Juice franchise in Morristown, New Jersey. And, I'm working toward doing a lot more speaking. So there's lots of different arms and areas of impact where I continue to serve and add value, and it's been a blessing.
Definitely, man. I know my audience wants to touch on the Giants and the Ravens. And these two questions are brought to you by B&D Sports Media. What are the chances the Giants make the playoffs this year?
I think the chances are actually, I would say something in the 60% range. If I'm just going to be honest as a talent evaluator, I think they actually have a good chance. I do believe that the offensive line on paper is better proposition than it has been in recent years. It doesn't mean that they're a stable force yet. I think they have a better talent, and hopefully with a culture shift that they can endure a little bit more. There was a lot of fighting, and adjustments with the Joe Judge era. Not that he wasn't a solid coach, but when you have that much tension and culture tension, and it seems like there's a lot more of an embracing with the Sean Dable era. So I think that's going to be a stabilizing force for Daniel, and that gives them a position to be in the hunt because the NFC East has been what it has been. So there's still a lot of question marks in relation to playmakers. What will Saquon be this year? I think we understand talent-wise, but production, health-wise, and even in that receiving room, you have the same questions. Talent-wise, but health-wise and production-wise. So I'll give it 60%. I'm still going to lean for my guys. I think they have enough resolve and mettle to figure it out.
Definitely. I think it's a make or break year for Daniel Jones this year. I think.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's when you're in that seat as a top 10 pick, there's no other way for it to be. You know, you're actually given every opportunity, and it's almost unfair because I think from an evaluator standpoint, that wasn't where he was supposed to go. But the Giants loved him that much and believed in him that much. And so it puts a pressure on you. If you get picked at 28, you know, like, is the pressure the same? You might actually, you know, it's just not the same kind of pressure. You're hoping, but it's not the same kind of pressure of a top 10. So, hey, does he have the talent, the ability? No one's questioned talent and ability. It's just about putting everything together. And I think when you're a top 10 guy, you need to be the catalyst more than just the missing piece. And, you know, like, you have to be the catalyst that moves the culture, moves the team. And I'm not sure if that's what Daniel Jones was really, you know, propositioned to be.
You think he's in the wrong market?
I think he was in the wrong situation.
Definitely.
You know, so, and I guess that could be saying the same thing. I think he has actually the perfect personality for the New York City market, but the team and the roster that he inherited was not good for him. And, you know, it had very little to do with his talent. It's just that there's a learning curve. Do you have transcendent talent to take a poor team to a competing team? And I think that's what we've seen. I think there's intangibles that go along with. There's not that much talent that's out there that can drag the mud into the limelight, right? It's like,
definitely.
And I don't know if that was the case with it, and no evaluators really had Daniel Jones at that place. It doesn't mean it's like, we know that a second round pick can become a starter. You got the Russell Wilsons of the world. Fourth round pick can become a dynamic, but it doesn't happen often. So, you know, from where he started to where he is, what we know is he's a dynamic talent who has all the ability, has all the mindset structures, but it probably looked like he was a piece that needed to be put in position more than a transcendent talent that was going to take or transform an anemic roster.
Definitely. It's likewise for the crosstown rivals, the Jets.
There you go.
Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson.
There you go.
They're sitting in the same squad.
Yeah, it's the same deal. It's like, you know, when you're getting these guys, that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping for a guy that's not just going to be the face of your franchise, but he's actually going to bring the qualities that are going to lift your football team. That's my personal opinion when you're talking about a top 10 quarterback, picking a quarterback within the top 10. You're saying, hey, you're not going to be my guy, but, you know, we're believing that you're the guy that's actually going to, you know, kind of supplant some of the weaknesses, right? That we might be having throughout our culture, our roster. You're bringing these leadership qualities that are going to make other players believe. And, you know, sometimes that's an unfair expectation, and you'll only know when these guys get put to the test. And, yeah, so the coals are definitely up under his butt, and I think he has the ability. So, you know, we're going to see how that rolls.
Definitely, man. So my next question is about the Ravens. Will the Ravens sign Lamar Jackson long term? If so, do you think that deal will set the market for quarterbacks?
Will it set the market for quarterbacks is probably the bigger question. The answer should be emphatically yes. The Ravens signed Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is just a weapon, right? And I think that he's so committed to being his best is his superpower. His superpower is he's not so full of himself that he's overly frustrated about his process. And I think that's the joy of Lamar Jackson, because he's not a prolific passer. He's a prolific talent. And I think when you recognize him for what he is, that's what basically maximizes the value and what brings – he has dynamic leadership qualities that make the Ravens a force offensively. And they put the offense to his suit. So I don't know if he sets the market because there's not another Lamar Jackson. And the fact that he hasn't yet proved himself to be a prolific passer, accuracy-wise, is maybe what makes this whole thing a conversation. And, I don't know what the terms are. I don't know what he's looking for. I haven't dug in deep in that regard in my own research, but he's due, and that's for sure.
Definitely. Hey, with him, he's best at the play-action game with Mark Andrews. Hey, those running backs from last year being hurt, I think were a detriment to his team not going far in the playoffs.
100%. 100%. And that can't be overstated, in all honesty, because that's the way the offense is supposed to be set up. He's not a pocket passer slinger like he was at Louisville. I mean, like, not at this level. What is going to maximize his arm talent is he throws a dynamic deep ball. And like I said, he can get the ball where it needs to go, but you need to free up space and opportunities so that he can be more proficient. So he's throwing the ball 20, between 20 and 30 times versus 40. And, and that's not a knock. When you're that dynamic of a weapon with your feet, you don't have to be in position to do all those things when you have a strong running game. Sometimes we forget that was what quarterbacks were in previous eras. Terry Bradshaw is not in the Hall of Fame because he was slinging it 50 times a game. He was slinging it because he was a winner. He was slinging it because he was proficient. He was a winner, and and he maximized his tools and talents on great teams.
Definitely. I don't know if my audience knows this, but Lamar Jackson is representing himself as his given agent. You think that's affecting his deal coming about with the Ravens?
You know what? That's a good, fair question. I don't know. I can't speak emphatically toward that to say that it's affecting it. Anyone who takes that risk should be well educated. It's not something to casually do just for the sake of doing it, especially someone in his position. And, all things considered, I would hope and believe that he's having advisors, even if he doesn't have an agent, right? Because you can get intelligent people to counsel you. There's enough research that anyone can do on the CBA, looking at previous contracts, right? Like, some of this isn't complete rocket science. I mean, like, if he was off $10 million, no one's going to be, destroyed about his contract, right? Because he'll save that. He'll save some of that and gain some of that in endorsements, right? So I think that's manageable, and that's what my hope would be. So I don't think that's really the big hope.
Definitely, but that's a tough ask to go out there and play football. Then on the back end, go up to the front office and work out a deal for yourself. That's why you have an agent to be on your side.
Here's the beautiful thing about the market is out in front of us. I mean, like, hey, Deshaun Watson just got paid, right? Now, let's look at what Deshaun Watson just got paid. All of the distractions leading up to this, he still gets signed by the Cleveland Browns, a monumental, record-setting contract, right? Lamar Jackson has every right to demand the same money. I mean, like, there's nothing about his resume that would make him believe, actually, in light of Deshaun's distractions and off-field issues, you can say he could ask for more. I mean, he has an NFL MVP season. He is the epicenter and the heartbeat of the Baltimore Ravens, and he's at the quarterback position. I mean, like, that's just spitballing what I'm going to go in and demand that the Baltimore Ravens pay me, right? Like, who's done more at this stage in their career? Now, are they different quarterbacks? We have different talents, different resumes. All that being true, Lamar Jackson still is who he is.
Definitely. I think
with no issues off the field.
Heck yeah, man. Hey, I think Jackson is going to probably sign a 4 to 5 year deal with the Ravens. That's just someone looking in on the situation.
Yeah, I think he has the ability. 100% has the ability. You know, like reality is these teams they want to lock in their talent for as long as they can. You know, and players, if they're wise, they want to avoid those scenarios. And I think we're starting to see more of those. You know, Patrick Mahomes goes all in on a 10-year deal, right? Okay, that's cool. I mean, you want to be in Kansas City forever. You want to not get another deal. And And I mean, like, you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to have to renegotiate in 5 years tops, right? But hey, that's a way to go about your business, and that's all about a relationship that you have with your team. Whether he gets the 4 or 5 year deal, it's really about. I don't think any player should be intimidated. If you get a 2-year deal, and it's $50 million a year, cool, bet, right? It's really about your guaranteed money and what flexibility that you have and belief in yourself to deliver and maintain your health.
Hey, great points, David. Hey, but we'll end on this question. Where can my audience find you on social media?
100% all over Instagram, dtyree85. Catch the Moment podcast. Man, please subscribe, download. We're on every platform. And then I'm actually big on LinkedIn. Hit me on LinkedIn, just doing business and doing a lot more speaking, sharing the story, sharing the journey. So I'm everywhere, but those are the main platforms on social, LinkedIn and dtyree85. You know, catch some of the family vibes. I got 7 kids, so we do Team Tyree. We do some family vibes there. And but yeah, it's a lot of exciting opportunities that we're moving into. It's great to tune in, talk a little ball.
Definitely, man. Hey, we definitely need to do it halfway through the season again.
Oh, no doubt, man. I'll actually be looking forward to some work with MSG, Odds with Ends, little sports gambling show. So look out for that too. So just grind it through. You know, it'll be some good touch points, and look forward to catching up during the season.
Let's do it, David. Hey, it's been a blessing to have you on our show, and this concludes our interview, my friend.